It's winter time and the weather's pretty grim, people. It's not nice out there, but you're adamant you're going to go and get out on the trails. But there could be one or two things holding you back. Your digits, yes, your hands and your feet. Often your extremities are the things to feel the cold first. So luckily today, I've got a few tips and tricks, some little hacks and a few little bits and bobs that you could possibly purchase to help you get you through those cold, cold winter months. Let's start off with your hands then, because these can often be on the front line of getting cold, especially when it's raining and it's windy and your poor little hands are just getting battered there on the bars. Gloves are going to be the best way to start with. A really good solid pair of winter gloves, something that's going to be waterproof and windproof to really keep the elements at bay and the heat in place. There are lots of mountain bike specific winter gloves out there, similar to these. As you can see, they're not too thick, they're not too bulky. They've got good layers of sort of insulation and padding on the back, enough to keep that wind chill out and the water out and things as well. And also the palms aren't too thick, so you can still feel the bars and the brakes. So you've got good control over the bike as well still. Really good investment. If you don't want to go splashing the cash, and that's understandable because, we can't all afford to be buying new bits and pieces for every single season, and you're happy with the gloves that you've already got, then going out and buying some sort of mechanics latex style gloves and sliding them on underneath your normal gloves works wonders too. All right, you might get a bit sweaty handed in them, but they will keep the wind out for sure, and the water as well, which is half the battle. And as long as you can keep your digits moving, then that's going to keep them warm. So could save you a few quid there. Now, if you're one of our viewers in one of the really cold climates, then you might want to go the whole hog and have handlebar mittens. I know that sounds a bit crazy, but it is actually a thing. Now, these big old mitts you can attach to the bars, slot your hands in, toasty. I mean, I probably wouldn't recommend those unless you're riding somewhere really cold, and they may look a bit kooky, but hey, if they stop your hands freezing off, then probably well worth it. I've given you some handy hints. Now here are some feety tips. A lot of us will just put on a thick old pair of walking socks or something like that for our winter rides, and off we trot for the day, dealing with the consequences as we go, as they slowly absorb all the water and we can no longer feel our toes. Dealing with it maybe when we get back to the car park and put some warm dry socks on. Well, fear not, because I have got some tips and tricks for you to sort of absorb, if you like, take in and maybe use to help get your feet through the winter as well. Socks then, there's lots of different versions out there, ranging from nice and cheap and affordable, which we're going to be covering, all the way through to, well, a little bit less, but maybe a bit more functional. And to kick things off, we've got these real thick, warm socks. Essentially, they're called heat holders. They're from a builder's merchants. Now, they only range from about £4 or probably about $5–6. They're going to be great in the winter at keeping your feet warm, but if they get wet, then I don't think these are going to be the way forwards. They've got a TOG rating, 2.3. I'm not really sure what that means, but it's fairly warm-ish. Now, moving on anyway. Merino socks, so merino wool, really warm and actually breathable at the same time. I think these are man-made, so I don't think you're going to get that quite as much, whereas the merino, they're going to actually keep your feet nice and toasty, but also not get too sweaty at the same time. And if you're really looking to beat those winter conditions and protect your feet as much as possible, well, then you can't beat something like this. It's a waterproof sock. So essentially a sock with a membrane on the inside. This one's actually made out of bamboo, which is going to keep that water out, and it's also fairly breathable as well, so your feet aren't going to get too hot in there. Combine that with a really good shoe or something, and well, nothing's getting through, and your feet should stay toasty dry the entire time. We've talked all things socks, but what about your actual footwear? Well, there's a few things that you can do here, beginning with overshoes. Hey, just like that. Now, our roadie brothers and sisters, they've been using these for quite a while now, and they may look a little bit odd, but actually they serve a great purpose. So first up, you can wear whatever shoes in a way. So again, if you don't want to be splashing the cash on any brand new shoes or anything like that, you can put these over your existing. These will work with clips and flats. And you know what? They're great. I'll be honest, I've said it. They keep the wind out, they keep the water out, and they'll keep your feet nice and warm and dry for the entire time. mean, the roadies have been using them for ages and they do know a thing or two about riding in the horrible weather. I'll give them that. If you do want to go the whole hog, you do ride a hell of a lot during the winter and you're always out there battling the elements, or you live in one of our really cold, snowy countries, well then, whew, a winter-specific shoe may be the one for you. A winter boot, well, it's going to be pretty much geared entirely for those horrible months. The materials that it's made from are going to be much more hard-wearing and sort of resistant to those grimy conditions. They're going to be a lot thicker and a lot warmer to keep your toes toasty in there. And also they're going to be much more waterproof, or completely waterproof a lot of the times. They'll use materials like Gore-Tex and things like that to help keep the elements at bay. Now, to end up on, I've got a few great little hacks and tips that you can do, because we can't be splashing the cash the entire time. It's just not feasible for a lot of us. So here are some things that are almost entirely free or may only cost you a few quid. First up, a foot hack, and it's these plastic bags. Yes, we've all got them knocking around there, virtually free or 5 pence down the supermarket when you do your weekly groceries or something like that. But do you know what? Once you've got your socks on, slip a pair of these over, or slip one of these over each foot, slide it inside your shoe, and hey presto, you've got a waterproof membrane. Ain't nothing getting through that. You might get a bit of a sweaty foot, but I would take that any day over a freezing cold, soaking wet, soggy shoe. I've told you obviously about having latex gloves underneath your normal gloves, and that you can get mountain bike specific winter gloves. But what if you're looking for something in between? What if you can't quite get those really expensive, fancy looking mountain bike gloves? Well, these brightly coloured beauties could be the ones for you. Now, these are workman gloves, essentially just from a builder's merchant again, and they're nicely insulated. They aren't waterproof, but they are nice and thick and toasty. They will keep the heat in and the style police at bay. Look at those. Blue, yellow, high vis. See me coming on the trails a long way. Actually, they're pretty warm too. Nice, good hack. Finally, a last little cheap hack that's great for keeping your hands warm is these little beauties. Hand warmers. Great for keeping with you in those really cold days. Now, if you've got a couple of them, you can either pop them in your pockets and stick your hands in there and it'll warm them up nice and toasty. Or if you're on the move, what I'll do sometimes, if it's really, really cold, I'll take those, crack them open, and I'll stick them on the backs of my hands there underneath my glove so that they get held nice and firmly in place. Obviously not on the palm, because I've got to grip the grip, obviously. And you will have toasty hands. Just be careful though, if you do have really cold, stingy hands though, these can actually be almost a bit too hot on them, so take it steady. And actually, do you know what? On that note, finally, just keeping your hands and feet moving during a ride. If you do stop at any moment, keep your toes wriggling, your hands wriggling, get those fingertips going. Help keep the blood circulation as much as you can going into all your extremities, just to try and keep the warmth in them. It's when you stop and you just stand there and don't do anything, that is when you're really going to struggle as well. So just always keep them going. Keep them going. Fists, clench fists, wriggle wings, wriggle, wriggle, wriggle. Just get the blood going, I tell you. But anyway, actually, do you know what? That's enough from me today. It is cold, it is wet, it is the winter, so I'm gonna go ride and keep my extremities warm. Hope you've really enjoyed this video and the tips have been really helpful. Let me know if you've got any more hacks for keeping those hands and feet warm in the comments below, and I will see you guys next time. Happy riding, everybody.